No, young sloth, I'm not going to tell everyone you proofread my work. I won't get any more business. Don't look at me like that. Hi everyone, I am Robyn, the copy bitch. This is Stewie, my sidekick sloth. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Today we're going to talk about proofreading tips and tricks. If you're a freelance copywriter, and if you're watching this video, you're probably some sort of writer or creative type, someone who does stuff with words, you might be wondering, how do I proofread my own work? Now, in a perfect world, you would probably pass off your copy to someone else to look at because they can catch your little typos and mistakes and things like that. But in this hectic world we all live in, we don't always have that luxury. So I'm going to give you tips and tricks that I use to proofread my own work. And hopefully it'll help you proofread your work. Okay? Tip number 1, put it away for another day or even for an hour or two. Oftentimes when I get to the final draft on a piece of copy, it could be a white paper, a blog post, or even something short like little pay-per-click ads. I will put the document away for a few hours and then come back to it and look at it with fresh eyes. That makes a whole big world of difference. And if you can actually do it the next day, even better. I know timelines, deadlines, you might not have that sort of luxury to do that, but that's my first tip. Your eyes, when they come back fresh, you will catch stuff and you'll be like, damn, how did I miss that the first time around? Tip number 2, give it to somebody who knows how to proofread. Now, that's the thing. It's one thing to pass off your copy to some random person walking down the hallway in your apartment building, but you want to make sure you're actually giving it to someone who knows a thing or two about grammar and punctuation, etc. Otherwise, what's the point? And again, I know you might not always have someone like that. I'm very lucky that I have Mr. Word Nerd, and I can run stuff by him. But if you don't have that person, then you can skip that step. But if you do have someone like that in your life and they're willing to look at your copy, especially for really important stuff, or maybe a long form piece of content, or maybe it's the first time you're working with a client, it's a good idea to give your copy to another set of eyes so they can catch your little mistakes and your homonyms. That's something that gets me. Now here's one that you can do that doesn't require necessarily a lot of extra time or another set of eyes. You can read your content out loud. And I recommend doing this anyway, not even so much for proofreading purposes, but to hear the musicality of the words and how things flow off your tongue. As a marketing copywriter, you want to create a really nice conversational style. I don't care what the client is, if it's a serious topic or whatever. You want it to be conversational. You want it to flow off the tongue. If it's easy for you to read out loud, then it's probably going to be easy for someone else to read. And that's the goal, right? So read your copy out loud. You'll also catch mistakes, and you'll catch those things that you can't necessarily catch when you're just proofreading, like just an awkward structure, or maybe something doesn't sound quite right. That's why you have to say it out loud. You have to hear what it sounds like. So I do recommend doing that as well. And yes, you'll pick up some mistakes that way. Okay, now we're going to look at my computer screen so that you can see some of my other tips and tricks. So get ready for a scene change. Okay, so we are going to talk more about proofreading tips and tricks. Here are some of the things that I do as a freelance copywriter when I need to proofread my own work. So I have on the screen one of my blog posts. It's a Word doc for one of my blog posts that I put on my business site. And yes, I don't just write in WordPress. Although you can, I mean, that's perfectly fine, but I prefer writing in Word. I'm just used to it. I've been using Word for decades, and that's what I do. So here's a tip. One of the things that I do after I finish writing a piece of content and I need to proofread it, the thing you need to do is you need to give your eyes a different view of the work, because when you've been staring at something for a long time, you don't see your own mistakes. So that's one of the challenges when you have to proofread your own work. And of course, it would be great if you could, give it to somebody else or sleep on it and read it with fresh set of eyes the next day. You don't always have that luxury. Sometimes you're writing a piece of content and you have to send it right to a client. So some of these tricks and tips will help you do that so that you can catch easy misses, like those little typos or words that sneak in that shouldn't be there, homonyms, that sort of thing. So one of the things I do is I will increase or decrease the size. I'll do both. Oftentimes I will decrease. So just by simply decreasing to, as you can see in the lower right-hand corner of my screen, to 80%, or you can do 70%, whatever you're comfortable with, it forces my eyes to see things differently. So that's one of my tips. You can also do the opposite, where you go really big. And I know some folks who do that. I know some folks who type this way. So you have to find what works best for you. And over time, you will figure that out. But decreasing font size, increasing font size, it just mixes it up for your eyeballs. And that's a good thing. So that's one trick. Another thing that I will do is I will highlight copy. So I'll just pick a bunch of paragraphs and highlight it with my yellow highlighter there. And again, it makes my eyes see it differently. And I will catch those little errors that I might have missed because I've just been reading it so many times. So that's another tip. And I'll just go through the whole document. And when I'm done, I will just, undo or, unhighlight, and then I'll go on to the next section and I'll highlight that and I'll do the same thing. It's worth it. I do catch stuff that way. So that's another trick that you can try. Something else that I do. Now, I haven't always done this, but I'm on whatever version of Word this is, Office 365. I don't really love the spell check as much as I did in the previous versions. It's just, it doesn't actually catch a lot of the mistakes, like basic mistakes. It misses typos. It misses, like there, your, like it misses basic stuff, I find, which is scary. Like that's the sort of stuff that I used to be really, really good at catching. And I don't really love the new editor thing that shows up on the right-hand side if you do like a spell check. So what I'll do is I will proof in Word and I'll do all the steps I just told you. I'll highlight the copy, I'll increase the text, the font size, I'll lower the font size, and then I will upload it to my Google Drive. I have a proofing folder in Google Drive, and I will bring it here, and I have Grammarly on, which I recommend doing. Grammarly is something you've probably heard of. If you haven't, check it out. Grammarly, there's a free version that you can use. That's what I use. There's also a paid version, but Grammarly catches a lot of mistakes that Word misses. So what I'll do is I'll upload it. I'll upload what I think is going to be the final document to my Google Drive, my proofing folder. I have Grammarly engaged, and it will actually almost always catch something that I just missed in the Word doc that Word missed. So that is and some of the things aren't mistakes, but you can see how things are highlighted here. I will go through it and then make this my final doc. So that's something else that you can do to help catch some errors, okay? In addition to some of the other things. Oh, here's another thing that I do. So sometimes, again, when it comes to typos and that sort of stuff, your eyeballs, if you've been reading the same sentence over and over, it's just, you're going to be reading it correctly in your head and your eyes are going to want to see what it wants to see. So another tip is I will start at the end of the document. So when you're reading things out of context, again, it trips up both your eyeballs and your brain because now you're reading things out of context. So it's actually catching some of the errors. So I might start the very last line, read that, then the next line, then the next line. So I actually go from the bottom up. So that's another tip that you can try when you are proofreading your own work. Okay. And now I throw it back to Stu Boo. Okay, Stewie, yes, we are back. And hopefully you found these proofreading tips and tricks to be helpful. Give them a try and let me know how it works in the comments below. And of course, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That helps us out as well. I am Robyn, the Copy Bitch. This is Stewie, my sidekick sloth, and we will see you next time.